A very good evening. You're watching Prime Time News on TV1 live and direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. Bringing you the news, I'm Jadabdin.
And I'm Rochelle Tibodra. Let's start off with a look at our headlines for tonight.
President in New York engages in multiple discussions, discusses human rights progress with UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. US President Trump critical of the United Nations. Body parts of the deceased in Sinimodara Tangol directed to the government analyst. 3 T-56 weapons allegedly belonging to Midigama Ruan discovered from a house in Midigama. Former Navy Commander Ulugethanna further remanded until the 8th of October. Remove Tissakutti Arachi for claiming he will be unofficial president. SLPP Anuradhapura activists demand.
And on to those stories in detail. In your top story this evening, Sri Lankan President Anurukumara Dissanayake is in New York for the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly.
During his visit, President Dissanayake took part in several high-level bilateral discussions. Among these engagements, a notable meeting was held with the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights.
President Anurukumara Dissanayake arrived yesterday at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York, United States, to participate in the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Upon arrival, he was welcomed by Sri Lanka's permanent representative to the United Nations, President's Council Jayantha Jayasuriya. Just hours after landing, President Dissanayake commenced a series of bilateral discussions. His first meeting was with UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk. The discussion focused on Sri Lanka's progress on human rights over the past year. Following the meeting, Volker Turk issued a statement via X, or formerly known as Twitter. Quote, "Pleased to meet Sri Lankan President Anurukumara Dissanayake to discuss progress on accountability and reform. The UN Human Rights Commission is ready to support." End quote. Late in the afternoon, President Dissanayake met with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, where both leaders emphasized the importance of further strengthening bilateral relations between their countries. In another key engagement, President Dissanayake held discussions with Sergio Gore, Special Envoy for South and Central Asia, appointed by US President Donald Trump and Director of the White House Presidential Staff. The meeting focused on enhancing cooperation in trade, commerce, tourism and investment, with both parties expressing interest in expanding collaboration across these vital sectors. President Dissanayake was accompanied by Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath and Permanent Representative Jayantha Jayasuriya during these high-level discussions.
President Anurukumara Dissanayake is expected to address the 80th UNGA session shortly after midnight tonight, Sri Lankan time. On to more news. President Donald Trump broke from his prepared remarks at the United Nations on Tuesday to bemoan an inoperable escalator and a defective teleprompter, using the incidents to portray the global body as dysfunctional. But it turns out the cause was closer to Trump.
Shortly after Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump entered UN headquarters to address world leaders at this year's General Assembly session, they stepped onto an escalator. But the machine ground to a halt almost immediately, forcing both Trumps to start climbing the stairs on their own.
President Trump, Schumer.
The UN says a videographer from Trump's delegation may have triggered the escalator's safety shut-off. US President Donald Trump stepped to the podium in New York Tuesday morning, thanked the crowd inside the hall, and then opened his binder once he realized the teleprompter was down.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. And I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter, because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless, and that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
A UN official speaking on condition of anonymity because of the sensitivity of the issue contributed that one to his side as well, saying the White House was operating the teleprompter for the president.
Hello, Madam First Lady. Thank you very much for being here.
President Trump repeated his claim that he had ended 7 unendable wars during his address to the United Nations General Assembly. Trump, who has a history of boasting about his role as a resolver of world conflicts as he campaigns for the Nobel Peace Prize, also disparaged the work of the United Nations, a body that he said, quote, did not even try to help in any of them, end quote.
In a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. No president or prime minister, and for that matter, no other country has ever done anything close to that. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them. What is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. All they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize, but for me, the real prize will be the sons and daughters who live to grow up with their mothers and fathers, because millions of people are no longer being killed in endless and unglorious wars. What I care about is not winning prizes, it's saving lives. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell. In America, we've taken bold action to swiftly shut down uncontrolled migration. Once we started detaining and deporting everyone who crossed the border and removing illegal aliens from the United States, they simply stopped coming. They're not coming anymore. The challenge with trade is much the same with climate. The countries that followed the rules, all their factories have been plundered by countries that broke the rules. That's why the United States is now applying tariffs to other countries.
It was revealed in Parliament today that Sajith Premadasa, during his tenure as Subject Minister in 2016 and 2019, had allegedly authorized the spending of over 8,000 million rupees from the Central Cultural Fund without proper approval.
Now, Deputy Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs Gamagedara Dissanayake stated that this information emerged from an investigation conducted by a committee whose report is now nearing its final stage. The Deputy Minister made these revelations while responding to a query raised by Samagi Janabalawege MP Ajit Pereira regarding the matter. Deputy Minister Gamagedara Dissanayake has stated that a government-appointed commission has uncovered a fraud involving 8,000 million rupees from the Cultural Fund. Now, according to him, this committee was appointed on the 15th July 2025 based on a cabinet memorandum. He says the committee must submit its report within 2 months. If such a report exists, this House must be informed. It should be presented for the awareness of all members. If not, Deputy Speaker, under the Code of Parliamentary Ethics, the Deputy Minister has committed a punishable offence. Deputy Speaker, this is the Act governing the Central Cultural Fund. It clearly outlines how the fund's resources should be used. Between 2016 and 2019, over 8,000 million rupees were spent without any approval from the fund's board. The committee was appointed on the 7th July with a mandate to submit its reports within 2 months. However, due to certain technical reasons, the committee convened only on the 30th July. From that date, the timeline is in effect and the report is expected to be finalized within the next few days. As far as I know, the report is now in its final stage of preparation. Therefore, our statement to the media was accurate. There is no issue of parliamentary ethics here. Once the report is released, all facts can be properly presented. Based on the information we currently have, the core provisions of the Act have been violated. Once the report is available, we can discuss the remaining matters.
A suspect with 3 T-56 firearms and a magazine allegedly belonging to Midigama Ruan, a member of an organized crime gang, was arrested today. The arrest was made during a raid carried out by the Police Special Task Force based on a tip-off.
The suspect arrested is a close associate of Midigama Ruan. Police say 27 rounds of ammunition were also found at the scene. It added that the firearms were discovered in a house belonging to a relative of Midigama Ruan.
Sri Lankan authorities have decided to send body samples of the 3 individuals found dead in a drug-linked residence in Sinimodara, Tangol to the Government Analyst Department for toxicological examination. The move aims to confirm the exact cause of death.
The post-mortem examinations were conducted yesterday by Judicial Medical Officer Dr. Ruan Nanayakkara at the Tangol Base Hospital. Initial findings revealed the presence of multiple narcotic substances, including crystal methamphetamine, in the victims' systems. The bodies of 2 individuals were discovered in the residence following a tip-off received by police early the previous morning. A 3rd person later died after being admitted to the Tangol hospital. Subsequent investigations led to the discovery of 700 kilograms of vice and heroin hidden in 3 lorries with an estimated street value of 10 billion rupees. Further inquiries revealed that the narcotics belonged to Nakurve Shanta, a criminal figure reportedly operating from overseas and linked to multiple organized crime networks. The drugs were smuggled into Sri Lanka on the 21st of September via 2 boats that landed along the Kudavella-Mavella coastal belt. So far, 6 individuals have been arrested in connection with the case. Among them are 2 sons of one of the deceased, 3 registered owners of the lorries used in the operation, and a lorry driver. The driver, arrested on the 23rd of September, was produced before the Tangol Magistrates Court and has been placed in detention for 7 days.
It has been revealed that former Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana local government candidate Sampath Manamperi has maintained WhatsApp communications with organized criminals Bako Saman, Kehelbadara Padme and Thambili Lahiru. Police disclosed this information during the suspect's appearance before the Walasmulla Magistrates Court on Tuesday.
Sampath Manamperi, who was in the custody of the Police Narcotics Bureau under a 7-day detention order, was presented before Walasmulla Magistrate Malsha Kodituakku on Tuesday at around 5 p.m. During the hearing, the Police Narcotics Bureau requested a 90-day detention order under the Prevention of Terrorism Temporary Provisions Act. However, the Bureau failed to present sufficient grounds to justify the request. Lawyers appearing on behalf of the suspect argued that the Police Narcotics Bureau's request for extended detention lacked a legal basis. They further stated that the Bureau had acted in a manner that disrespected the authority of the court. Newsfirst correspondent reported that the proceedings were adjourned twice during the hearing. After reviewing submissions from both sides, the magistrate ordered that the suspect be remanded until the 26th of this month. At the same hearing, the Midenia police requested that Sampath Manamperi be remanded until the 1st of next month in connection with firearms discovered hidden in a garbage pile near a house in Midenia. Magistrate Malsha Kodituakku granted this request and ordered the suspect to remain in remand custody until the 1st of next month. Why did the Western Province North Crimes Division appear in court today? Officials from the Western Province North Crimes Division submitted a motion to the Walasmulla Magistrates Court today seeking a detention order for Sampath Manamperi. They informed the court that under Section 125 of the Criminal Procedure Code, the Inspector General of Police had assigned the investigation to the Western Province North Crimes Division. The magistrate stated that the detention order would be issued on Friday following the submission of the required documentation. Following the arrest and repatriation of organized criminals including Kehelbadara Padme and Bako Saman from Indonesia, investigations have revealed extensive information related to organized crime and drug trafficking. During these investigations, a stock of crystal methamphetamine, commonly known as ice, was discovered buried on a property in Midenia belonging to Sampath Manamperi and his family. 2 containers suspected suspected to have been used to import the drugs were also identified. Substances suspected to be used in the production of methamphetamine were found at multiple locations. Laboratory tests confirmed the presence of methamphetamine in samples taken from Middenniya. Was ice produced using talc stones in Hambantota? White powder and small rock fragments resembling talc stones were reportedly imported into the country and discovered at several locations, including Middenniya. A suspect in custody revealed that these materials were used to produce crystal methamphetamine. The Kalutara Crimes Investigation Division raided a meth lab operating inside a tourist villa in Hambantota on the 14th of this month. Based on information obtained during the interrogation of Ambilipitiya Suranga, an assistant to Panadura Nilanga, who is currently in custody, a 20-year-old youth was arrested. Police stated that the youth was involved in operations in the meth lab in Mayurapura, Hambantota. According to his statement, talc stones and similar substances were transported to the lab by truck. He claimed that foreign nationals working in the lab mixed the substances with chemicals in large containers and boiled them. He further stated that the liquid was then filtered using paper and the salt-like residue left on the paper was identified by the foreign nationals as crystal methamphetamine. Was meth found in the talc stones? The 2 containers containing talc stones and powder discovered in Middenniya were released by Sri Lanka Customs in January. Customs spokesperson Chandana Punchiheva stated that prior intelligence had indicated the presence of illegal substances in the containers. He confirmed that the Police Narcotics Bureau and Sri Lanka Customs jointly inspected the containers, which were found to contain talc stones and powder. Following the inspection, the containers were released. Can meth be produced from talc stones? Talc powder is commonly used in cosmetic products and is also known to be mixed with heroin. We inquired with the relevant investigative agencies regarding the materials found in Middenniya. They stated that investigations are still ongoing to determine whether the recovered substances are indeed talc stones.
A driver assistant employed at the Colombo Municipal Council's Borel office has been arrested by the Valana Central Anti-Corruption Strike Force for allegedly engaging in the trafficking and sale of crystal methamphetamine. The suspect, a 47-year-old resident of Borella Sivali Mawatha, was taken into custody following intelligence-led operations. Police revealed that the individual had been operating from behind the Campbell Park office, where he reportedly packaged and distributed ice. Investigations have uncovered that the suspect received narcotics from organized criminal networks, indicating deeper links to larger drug syndicates. Officers seized 20,790 milligrams of ice during the arrest. Police confirmed that the suspect is currently being interrogated under a detention order.
Newsfirst with the people.
A controversial situation is unfolding following a statement by former MP Tissa Kuttiarachchi in which he referred to himself as unofficial president if Namal Rajapaksa comes to power. While his party, the SLPP, has officially denied any discussion about a so-called unofficial presidency, party members in Anuradhapura are now challenging Kuttiarachchi's position as organizers, signalling internal dissent over his remarks.
During a recent party gathering in Mihintale, Tissa Kuttiarachchi expressed his disappointment over the low turnout, reportedly attended by only a few of the SLPP organizers. He allegedly threatened those present, declaring that he was the unofficial president representing Namal Rajapaksa.
We need to work in a way that upholds the pride of the Anuradhapura district, because when Namal Rajapaksa becomes president, I will be the unofficial president. I am one of his closest allies and his closest confidant. I can't go asking him to give this or give that. But when Anuradhapura becomes the district with the highest percentage of votes in the country, then we can go to him and say, look, the people of Anuradhapura stood with you. Now it is time for you to stand with them. If we want to leave space for that message to be heard, we must move forward with proper planning.
According to the SLPP, there is no such designation as unofficial president within the party.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණ පක්ෂයක් විදියට හෝ
There has been no discussion of a post for an unofficial president, neither as a party or by Namal Rajapaksa as the national organizer of this political movement. This appears to be a purely personal opinion expressed during that particular gathering and not an official position or directive of the party. Therefore, I don't believe there's any need for unnecessary alarm or speculation.
බරපතල කාරණාවක් ඉදිරිය ගන්න එපා.
However, frontline activists of the SLPP for the Anuradhapura district had this to say. We haven't read of an unofficial president even in the constitution, apart from the one elected by the people. This is the Anuradhapura district, a region with a proud political legacy. It is where leaders like KB Ratnayaka, Maithripala Senanayaka, Berti Dissanayaka, Duminda Dissanayaka, Chandrasena and Sema Singha all shaped national politics. Anyone who seeks to speak on behalf of this district must do so with responsibility and maturity. If someone wants to lead this district politically, they must earn that place through respect, not through careless or self-serving statements. Namal's votes are slipping away purely because of Tissa Kuttiarach's reckless comments. We wish to respectfully state to the party, if we are to embark on a campaign to elect Namal Rajapaksa as president in 2029, we cannot do it with him. That is what I have to say. You cannot engage in politics in Anuradhapura by only working closely with some and creating rifts with others who know this party well. Conmen cannot play around here.
5th of September 2025. A haul of chemicals believed to be used in the production of crystal methamphetamine found in Midenia. Former Pradeshya Sabha member of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, P.L. Manamperi, and former Pradeshya Sabha candidate Sampath Manamperi accused. 6th of September 2025. P.L. Manamperi arrested. Sampath Manamperi on the run. Sampath Manamperi was a former police constable and a former bodyguard of Mahinda Rajapaksa's security detail. He was also implicated in legal proceedings related to the assassination of parliamentarian Nadaraja Raviraj and another prominent businessman. He was also a candidate who contested the recent local government election under the SLPP ticket. Further details of close associates continue to emerge. While container loads of suspected drug-producing chemicals were discovered, this was the SLPP's stance. Excerpt.
Sampath Manamperi, a former member of our party residing in Thalava, Angunukula Palace, has been charged for allegedly possessing raw materials used for the production of narcotics. The policies of our party will not tolerate members facing such allegations, and therefore his party membership will be terminated with immediate effect.
End of excerpt. Sampath Manamperi has now surrendered to courts and remains in the custody of authorities. Large quantities of narcotics and weapons are now being discovered each day. In addition to the contraband, revelations about various connections and affiliations have also come to light. For your attention.
Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, and his spouse visited former President Mahinda Rajapaksa at the Carlton residence in Tangol this afternoon.
The discussion held at Carlton House was also attended by the General Secretary of the SLPP, Sagara Karyawasam, and former Member of Parliament, Lakshman Yapa Abewardana. According to a post shared by the Indian High Commission, the focus of the meeting was on strengthening bilateral cooperation and monitoring Sri Lanka's ongoing political developments.
Now, Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijay Herath and his Indian counterpart Dr. S. Jaishankar engaged in discussions in New York on the sidelines of the ongoing United Nations General Assembly sessions. Minister Vijay Herath stated that the meeting was held to reaffirm the strong friendship and close cooperation between Sri Lanka and India. Now, moving on to more local news, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has announced that it will maintain the overnight policy rate at its current level. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe also spoke about the country's inflation targets during the monetary policy review held at the central bank premises today.
The Monetary Policy Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has decided to maintain the overnight policy rate at the current level of 7.75%. The board arrived at this decision after carefully considering both domestic and global developments. The board is of the view that the current monetary policy stance will support steering inflation towards the target of 5%.
බලාපොරොත්තුණු ප්‍රමාණයෙන්ම සංචාරක ව්‍යාපාරයෙන් අපිට ආදායම ආවේ නැහැ නේද? ඒක මොකක්ද හේතුව? කියන්නේ මම හිතන්නේ මොකද්ද ඔබතුමා බලාපොරොත්තු? කියන්නේ මම කියන්නේ අපි මේ මීට වැඩි බලාපොරොත්තු වුණා කියලා යම්
කවුද ඔබතුමා බලාපොරොත්තු වුණාද? නැත්නම් ජනතාව බලාපොරොත්තු?
නෑ ජනතාවගේ බලාපොරොත්තු මම කියන්නේ.
අර චාට් එක බලවම නම් ඒ පේනවා අර තීනෝට උඩින් යන්නේ. මේ අවුරුද්ද මම දන්නේ මොන මට්ටමේද ඔබ බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ කියලා. නමුත් මට පේනවා ගිය අවුරුද්ද දෙකට වඩා උඩින් යනවා මේ අවුරුද්ද. දැන් මේ මාසෙත් වැඩිමින් ගිහිලා තියෙනවා.
With the inflation currently being 1.5%, while the IMF targets require 4.5%, what measures will the central bank take in order to align this inflation with the target?
There's no target by the IMF. That's why I want to make it very clear. IMF is the monetary policy consultative clause where, in fact, IMF, there's a band under monetary policy target, which is inflation is the target, which is to maintain 5% in line with what we say. It's the same thing. 5%, they have a much wider band. In our commitment, we say we want to maintain 5% with 1% or 2% plus or minus. That's our commitment with the government. If we fail to meet that, like what Chairman last 11 months, we go to the Parliament and explain. But for the IMF's commitment is to maintain a similar with a higher band, 3% up or down. So there's a much more flexibility in the IMF, our commitment to the IMF to maintain inflation. So there we don't see a problem. I think this is consistent with what I just mentioned about the inflation path. It will move into that direction. And this is where if there's a breach of their band, then there will be a consultation by the executive board when review is submitted to the board. Then they will look at it and say, okay, this is. I don't see a problem with the breaching the lower band. The more concern would be if we have breached the upper band, which is in IMF that is 8%. For our commitment by the mandate, with the understanding of the government is 7%. Those are the critical breaches on the upside. I don't think that's going to happen.
A debate on court cases involving several representatives of the National People's Power arose in Parliament today.
A case bearing number B/299/84 is currently under scrutiny at the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court involving the alleged forcible takeover of a two-story building on a 32 perch property located at number 10 Municipal Council Road, Dehiwala. The property is said to belong to the National Workers' Congress. According to court records, the magistrate had issued a direct order for the immediate arrest of the suspects involved in the unlawful occupation of the premises. However, no arrests were made and concerns have been raised that this was due to the involvement of a government minister allegedly connected to the matter. Following this, a pattern of judicial transfers appears to have emerged. The original magistrate who issued the arrest order was suddenly transferred. Her replacement began hearing the case but has now also been removed. A third magistrate has reportedly been appointed to continue proceedings.
චතුරගාඩි සිල්ලා මැතිනිය ගල්කිස්සට ඇවිල්ලා ගල්කිස්සුවාවි අවුරුද්දක්වත් නැහැ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අවුරුදු 3ක් සේවය කරන්න අවස්ථාව තියෙනවා. එතුමියව මාරු කරනවා කෙලින්ම කැෂ් බෑවට. හේතුව වසන්ත සමරසිංහ මහත්තයා නඩුව ඇහුවේ එතුමිය.
ඉස් අධිකරණයෙන් වසන්ත සමරසිංහ එමතුමා සම්බන්ධයෙන් දීපු තීන්දුව මොකද්ද? මොකද්ද අධිකරණ නියෝගය? මොකද්ද නියෝගය? දීලා තියෙනවා අත්තරංගුට අරගෙන ඉල්ලත් කියන්න කියලා. ඒකද මම
හරි දැන් ඔබතුමා එන කියන්නකෝ. ඔබතුමා කොලේ තියනවද ඔබතුමා ගාව? නෑ නෑ ඔබතුමා
යානේ කිව්වේ.
නෑ නෑ ඔය ඇවිදවිද කතා කරන්න එපා.
අධිකරණ නියෝගයක් තියනවද?
ඇවිදවිද කතා කරන්න එපා. මල්ලක තියෙනවා මං ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න.
නීතිඥ දයාසිරි ජයසේකර කියලා තමයි.
He introduces himself as attorney Dayasiri Jayasekara. Previously, I challenged President's Counsel Maitri Gunaratna too. If there is a court order, table it here, but do not lie. Where is it?
කියන්න එපා එහෙම. කොහෙද එහෙම එකක් තියෙන්නේ?
ඊයේ දෙසැම්බර් 18 වෙනිදා නිලුපුඩි සිල්වා මැතිනිය දුන්න තීන්දුවේ තමයි මේක තිබෙන්නේ. ෆෝර්ට් මැජිස්ට්‍රේට් එකේ මම ලබන සිකුරාද වෙනකොට ඒක සභාගත කරනවා.
උත්තර දී ගන්න බැරි වුණා වෙන මොනවා හරි බයිලා ගහනවා. නීතිඥ වෘත්ති ආචාර ධර්මත් කෙලෙසනවා. ඒක නිකම්ම නිකං
That was not merely an example. What was implied was that the Mount Lavinia magistrate was transferred due to it. The Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court has not issued an order to arrest Vasantha Samarasinghe and 3 others. The Judicial Services Commission has mandated that transfer, not us. If he can state that this was the premise of her transfer, then stick to that argument. If not, withdraw those claims till they are proven.
එතකොට මාධ්‍ය වලින් ඒක අස් කරලා යාවි.
මම කියපු එකක් මට ආයි ඉල්ලාස් කරගන්න උඹනවක් නැහැ. මං කියපු එක ඒ විදිහටම තියෙනවා එච්චරයි. නෑ නෑ ආයි මට ආයි කියන්න උඹනවක් නැහැ.
විනාඩි 10කට කලින් කියපු දේ ගල්කිස්ස මහේස්ත්‍රාත්තුමිය මාරු කරේ වසන්ත සමරසිංහ ඇමතුමා අත්අඩංගුවට නියෝගයක් දීපු නිසා කියන එක ආයෙ කියන්න බැරිද? දැන් මම නෑ දැන් ඔබතුමා අයිය කරගන්නේ මොකද? මම නෑ නෑ අපොඩයි මයික් එක දීලා අහන්න බලන්න. දැන් මම
In the case bearing number B/29984/24, heard before the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court, the presiding magistrate issued not one but 2 clear orders for the immediate arrest of the suspects, once on the 6th of September 2024 and again on the 26th of November 2024. We have not received any such order during the date that is mentioned. It was their government which was in power in 2024. We were only campaigning. If such an order was issued at the time, we would not have been allowed to roam freely. That is the truth. But in 2025, the order was to record statements and we have complied. Please send us the document that was tabled.
ප්‍රකාශ ලබා දීලා තිබෙනවා ඔය සභාගත කරපු ලේඛනය අපිට එවන්න. බී රිපෝට් එක කවුද ඉන්නේ කියන්න මම බී රිපෝට් එක ඉන්න කට්ටිය. ඉන්න මේ බී රිපෝට් එක තියෙනවා හැම් පිටින්ම.
මේ ආందోලනාත්මක කතාවක් පැන නැගුණේ චතුරිකාද සිල්වා මහත්මිය සම්බන්ධයෙන්.
The controversy arose over Chaturika de Silva. She was presiding over the court in September 2025. The order he read was issued in September 2024. A different judge was presiding over the court at that time. It was Nilupuli Lankapura.
මේ කොහෙද යන්නේ මල්ලේපොල් මේවට තමයි කියන්නේ හතර වීඩි කතා කියලා තේරුණාද 2024 9 වෙනි මාසේ ගෙනාවු තීන්දුවක් 2025 ලෙස මෙතන ඇවිල්ලා සභාගත කරනවා අමු පට්ට බොරුවක් මේ කරේ.
Newsfirst, main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposits. Valuable FD 10.25% for 15 months, 11% for 24 months. Valuable FD, the symbol of stability.
The government of Sri Lanka has allocated 92.5 billion rupees to the Sri Lanka Navy in the 2025 defence budget, marking a 12% increase from the previous year. Now, this announcement was made by Prime Minister Harini Amarasuriya at the Galle Dialogue International Maritime Conference in Valisara.
The Galle Dialogue International Maritime Conference got underway in Valisara under the patronage of Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya and the Deputy Minister of Defence, together with the Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, Vice Admiral Kanchana Banagoda.
Our commitment is to work with all partners to ensure that the Indian Ocean remains peaceful, secure, sustainable and governed through fairness and cooperation. Beyond traditional threats, Sri Lanka also faces non-traditional challenges, including narcotics trafficking, which underscore the vital role of our Navy and Coast Guard. The government is committed to safeguarding national security and public health and has taken proactive measures to combat drug trafficking in recognition of the evolving maritime security landscape and the critical role of the Sri Lankan Navy. The government has allocated Sri Lankan rupees 92.5 billion to the Navy in the 2025 defence budget, marking a 12% increase from the previous year. This investment underscores the government's unwavering commitment to enhancing national security and safeguarding our maritime domain. Ensuring effective maritime security and counter-narcotics operations in the Indian Ocean requires the active support and collaboration of other nations. Freedom of navigation, respect for international law, and responses to piracy, trafficking, and irregular migration depend on information sharing, coordination among navies and coast guards, and confidence-building measures. A rules-based order at sea must remain at the cornerstone of stability. The blue economy presents opportunities in shipping, fisheries, biotechnology, and tourism. Its growth must be sustainable and inclusive. supported by green shipping, fair infrastructure, and digital innovation. Emerging technologies such as maritime domain awareness systems, satellite monitoring, and predictive analytics are reshaping how seas are safeguarded and resources are managed. Sri Lanka urges all actors to contribute to a shared maritime security architecture rooted in inclusivity, transparency, and respect for international law.
Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi, Chief of Naval Staff of the Indian Navy, has underscored the growing strategic complexity in the Indian Ocean region, warning of potential friction among regional and extra-regional powers as global interests increasingly converge across trade, energy and security domains.
You are aware, due to the geography, the Indian Ocean region is a place where the commerce, prosperity and security converge, because the strategic interests of nations are converging, and there is a contest across the trade, energy and security, which is obviously has led to, is leading to and could lead to friction among states, both regional and extra-regional. And therefore the landscape, or I might use seascape, is marked by complexity and competition. Effects of international sanction are most visible in this area. Therefore, we see the shadow fleets and white shipping going dark. India's maritime vision has been, is and will always be grounded on collaboration and cooperation, in keeping with our civilization ethos of Vasudev Kutumbakam, where we feel that the world is but one family. So my proposal is, three pathways which I want to bring to your notice. One is we need to harness technology for truly inclusive maritime domain awareness. That is the first thing which we have to ensure, which requires interoperable communication and info sharing networks. We have created something called Nishar Mitra. Mitra is friend, of course, and Nishar is an acronym for the software which we have created. It has been used by some of the friendly countries, and I request all other friendly countries to also use it and see for yourself. Secondly, we need to build resilient frameworks and recognize that seabed cables and energy pipelines as critical shared global infrastructure. There can be no debate or doubt on that. Also, we have to have a collective defense against cyber threats, piracy, trafficking, etc., and resilient against the climate-driven disasters. And I would propose use of what coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure. It's an Indian government initiative. That is one route which we can go through. We also need to deepen connectivity through inclusive and sustainable pathways.
The Galle Dialogue 2025 will continue tomorrow as well.
The Sri Lanka Press Institute held a panel discussion on understanding the Online Safety Act yesterday in Colombo.
A panel discussion on understanding the Online Safety Act, implications for media, tech and rights took place in Colombo. The panel included speakers Ashwini Natesan, Mohammed Fairoz, Shalini Fernando and Jerome D. Correa, along with the moderator Sharon Arnolda.
The Online Safety Act is an enactment, number one, to establish the Online Safety Commission, but outside of that, it's an act through which one is able to penalize offenses relating to online communication. And online communication can be in any form. It can be through social media communication, or it can also be something that you do online through messaging platforms. All of this is covered within the Online Safety Act. So in Sri Lanka, there have been many instances where online communication has been penalized, and you can see examples of that through the police ordinance, through the ICCPR, where hate speech has been used, Computer Crime Act, etc. What is it that is different between those enactments to the Online Safety Act? It is that under the Online Safety Act, not only can one go take the other person who has committed that offense to court, but also you're able to go after the platform or internet intermediary. And when I say intermediary, I mean the platforms that we use every day. For instance, it can be Facebook, it can be Instagram, it can be X, called as Twitter, it can be TikTok, it can be LinkedIn, it can be anything. Or it can also be one-to-one messaging platform, etc. All of this is included under the Online Safety Act. But through the Online Safety Act, there are ways and means where the courts can ask for disclosure of identity of the person who communicated that statement. That is one example of how it has been viewed as potentially violating the fundamental rights. And the second point that's usually made, and it's also a very valid one at that, is the fact that the offenses given under the Act are very broad. When we talk about the definition of false statement, it's indeed very wide and broad. And there is also an element of vagueness in the Online Safety Act. And the other important aspect that has been mentioned is the manner in which the Commission will function without sufficient transparency and being very opaque. And these have been considered as potential areas that could violate fundamental rights and also international principles of human rights.
So right now what we have is an OSA, which is not working as a facilitator for self-regulation. Instead, it is an arbitrator. And then it also goes to protect the state rather than the women, children, and the minorities it was purported to be. And I think especially we need to think of, especially when it comes to AI, the challenges and which are yet to come. We haven't considered yet about ethics by design or the human rights by design approaches. I mean, there are arguments about both ends. There is no law that governs either the ethics by design or the human rights by design yet. So without exploring the first set of miles, the discussions and self-regulatory frameworks and community-based frameworks, just jumping into the legal might be dangerous and it could be draconian as well. And any legal provision that's been developed, especially with regard to this, where the human rights is concerned, has to be through a proper consultation process.
The discussion brought together legal, media and technology experts to examine the key provisions of the Online Safety Act, its impact on journalists, the public and social media platforms, as well as its alignment with international standards. The initiative was organized by the Sri Lanka Press Institute with the support of the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lankan Airlines says it has charted a fresh course with the rollout of its new 5-year strategic plan, aligning commercial ambitions with operational excellence, stakeholder engagement and environmental stewardship.
Sri Lankan Airlines has reported a 10% increase in passenger revenue during the first 5 months of the 2025-2026 financial year, alongside a 22% rise in passenger numbers and a 10% growth in capacity, marking a strong start to its newly launched 5-year strategic plan. A key contributor to the revenue surge has been route rationalization, demand synchronized scheduling and enhanced digital sales platforms. Revised timings on Indian roads, including Bangalore, Kochi and Hyderabad, have helped tap into the growing Indian leisure market. Operationally, Sri Lankan Airlines has improved its on-time performance to 74%, up from 69% in 2024, despite global challenges in engine availability and spare parts. The airline credits its agile fleet management and advanced software systems for enabling faster maintenance turnarounds, proactive scheduling and improved inventory control. 2 previously grounded aircraft have returned to service, with a third expected to join operations early next year.
A digital marketing workshop for exporters was held in Colombo yesterday.
A digital marketing workshop for exporters on AI for export growth took place in Colombo. The event was organized by the National Chamber of Exporters of Sri Lanka. The keynote address of the event was delivered by co-founder and CEO of the Asia Pacific Institute of Digital Marketing, Amitha Amarasinghe, on digital marketing and AI for export growth.
So if you want to go to export market, the first thing that you have to get is your branding and packaging has to be premium. You have to invest in that. And second one is their digital presence. When I say digital presence, most people believe it's about having a website, having a Facebook page, having a TikTok and all that. But if your website, if your TikTok channel, if your Facebook page doesn't reach to the right decision makers of your potential buyers in Europe or in Americas or in Australia, that's not serving the purpose, right? Now, when I know that like in most businesses, be it like export-oriented or local market-oriented, one of the major weak point is like decisions about the digital presence is always made inside out. The company owners, the company management, they create a website that appeals to them. Very rarely they think about the end customer. So I see a lot of organizations are wasting their budgets investing in digital tools, AI and everything, but they don't have their manual processes in right first. So you have to get your manual processes in right first, then invest in digital tools to automate it.
A panel discussion between industry leaders was a key highlight of the workshop. The event also featured demonstrations of potential cases of AI for exports.
The Colombo Lotus Tower is to launch South Asia's first bungee jump from the tower, world's tallest of its kind. The announcement came at a media briefing on the progress of the Colombo Lotus Tower and its future plans.
Sri Lanka's iconic Lotus Tower is set to introduce South Asia's first ever bungee jumping attraction, and it will be the world's tallest bungee jump from a tower. The project, now in its planning and engineering phase, is backed by a signed agreement and extensive collaboration between structural engineers and the Lotus Tower's in-house technical team.
Our goal is to position the local Lotus Tower as South Asia's premier destination for culture, education, technology, adventure and entertainment. Despite challenges we faced, we have recorded a significant growth in both revenue, visitor numbers, while launching new initiatives that position the local Lotus Tower as South Asia's premier destination. Sri Lanka's first bungee jump attraction and the world's tallest from a tower that will be in Sri Lanka. Agreement is signed and currently in the planning and engaging stage with a lot of input from our engineering department and from our structural engineers. We hope to launch it sometime next year. So now you see, if you look at August 2024, by the same period last year, we had a profit of 194 million, and by the same period this year, August 25, we are showing a profit of 539 million, which is a 38% increase, with a 373 million difference between the same period over the previous year. Next slide, please. As you can see, the revenue increase in the dark blue is the previous year against the light blue, which is this year. And if you look at the summary of this, a 31% increase in revenue, a 77% increase in gross profit. That shows that we have managed our expenses very well. And a 192 increase in profit before tax.
The Super 4 encounter of the 2025 Asia Cup between Bangladesh and India got underway in Dubai this evening. Now, at the end of the first innings, India were on 168 for the loss of 6 wickets at the end of their 20 overs.
India currently sits at the top of the Super 4 table with 2 points, while Bangladesh sits in third on 2 points based on net run rate. All matches of the 2025 Asia Cup T20 cricket tournament are being broadcast live on TV1, the official local broadcast rights holder, and will be streamed live on www.sirasatv.lk.
Sports fans around the world witnessed true sporting spirit last night despite a fierce battle on the field between two teams, Sri Lanka and Pakistan. This was a moment that was captured following the Super 4 encounter between Sri Lanka and Pakistan last night. Members of the Pakistan cricket team and other officials of the Pakistan Cricket Board and the Asian Cricket Council reached out to Dunith Velalage to express their condolences on the recent passing of his father.
From golden shores to emerald hills, Sri Lanka stands proud, resilient and breathtakingly beautiful.
We leave you tonight with the story of one of Sri Lanka's most pristine coasts. This is beautiful Sri Lanka. Thank you and good night.
Located approximately 340 kilometers from Colombo, Panama Beach stretches along the eastern coastline like a secret whispered by nature. This pristine paradise is blanketed in soft, white sand and framed by dramatic rock formations that rise like ancient guardians of the shore. Often hailed as one of the cleanest and most untouched beaches in Asia, Panama has become a quiet favorite among foreign travelers seeking serenity far from the crowds. At the very edge of Sri Lanka's eastern frontier lies Panama village, the final settlement before the land gives way to the sea. It's a place where rugged beauty and raw simplicity coexist in harmony. Surrounded on one side by the Kumana National Park's dense forests, on another by the vast Indian Ocean, and bordered inland by the lagoon, Panama is a natural fortress of biodiversity and breathtaking views.
Beautiful Sri Lanka.